why are they trying to fix what's not broken with Sandy Alcantara? That's something I had that question when Sandy originally said it to some of the reporters, like that he's switching to more of a sweeper. And I still have that question now, because why are you trying to change a Cy Young Award winner? So I understand it from a player development perspective. I understand it from prospect perspective. But when this player is already a Cy Young Award winner, why are you trying to fix something that's not broken? So I think that's a mistake. I think that's where a lot of Sandy's issues lie. It's in the fact that they're trying to redo his slider, which was already one of the best pitches in baseball. You can see that he's not fooling guys. He's getting way less swings out of the strike zone. He's having to come into the strike zone a lot more. And that's why his contact rates are up on all of his pitches. And that's why those WARs on every single pitch that he's throwing are down, well down. So I don't really get why they would try to change what Sandy was doing. Yes, he had Tommy John. Yes, the game changes every day. We get that. But this guy was just fine with slider, fastball, changeup, and even, I guess, mix and curveball. And they just kind of redid him. And I don't really think it was for a good reason. So
I didn't
I don't know. I think that's kind of an interesting topic to go to is to why they tried to, maybe a good question for the pitching coach. Why did you try to revamp Sandy when he didn't really need it?
I guess one other positive I really wanted to mention, sorry, Nate. The one positive I did want to take from this is that Sandy surpassed 100 pitches. So now it's not an issue of an innings limit or a pitch limit. Now it's just like what Carver said. Like, why are you trying to change what wasn't broken? And I know they're adding this one pitch, that sweeper, to everyone in the organization. It's not just Sandy, but there's certain guys you don't do that to. Like, if you're on the, I don't even know, like, think of the best. If you're not going to tell Paul Skeens to change this right now, and I know I'm mentioning the best pitcher in baseball, but like that, I'm not saying Sandy is, but he's up there for one of the better pitchers in baseball overall. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're changing a little bit too much. The fastball's there. I think he's throwing the changeup a little bit less, or if not, that's the second most used pitch. I don't know why he isn't going with slider a bit more. They also need to maybe define which one, I guess on Savant, which one's slider, which one's sweeper, which they haven't done that yet. But it's just a weird usage that he has so far. And I know he didn't throw the changeup a lot in that start against the White Sox. So maybe that was an issue. And I know he noted it wasn't his best pitch, but still, I mean, you go with that overall in his career, that's been his best pitch. And you got to go with it.
Carter, I apologize. My internet went out. I thought you stopped talking. But I did want to say that the base running this series was also quite abysmal. They got picked off at second plenty of times. I don't know, especially with Clayton as a at first base coach many years, the fact you keep running on that catcher when he threw you out plenty of times, it really, especially when they couldn't start rallies like that and just had no situational hitting whatsoever, it was kind of mind-boggling to me. And then also Nick Fortes getting picked off at third base.
That was terrible.
The 2-out rally, especially as a catcher. You don't see that coming. I think that the poor situational everywhere, hitting on the base, running on the bases, it really showed this series. And Kevin, I don't know if the Marlins are better than the White Sox at this point. It reminds me of that scene from Bad News Bears when they're talking. It's like, oh, we just lost to the worst team in the league. And the kid's like, well, second worst, because it might be them. So I think just the way things have gone from the past, I mean, honestly, entering May, it's been pretty bad. So they've certainly come back down to earth. And that's just what I'm trying to say.
And as bad as the White Sox are, like, there's certain the one thing that is a positive for them has been the catching. Like, they have Matt Tice has been pretty good. I'm pretty sure Edgar Caro, you have Kyle Teal coming up. Like Nate said it, that was really bad. Especially the Fortes one was the worst one of all. Like, how, like, yeah, no, you're down. You don't get off the third base that far. Like, yeah, no, just honestly, this was a terrible series for the Marlins. And I don't usually say that, but this was a genuinely terrible series for the Marlins. Shout out Edward Cabrera, he's really good.
Not to go too long on Sandy, but I know he's a hot topic because of everything that could happen with him. Just as I called out before, like, swing percentage inside the strike zone is down to 69%, whereas last year on the whole year, of course, we're looking at a smaller sample right now, on the whole year last year, 73%, year before 72, year before 72. So even his ability to get swings inside the strike zone is gone because guys are just waiting him out. I don't really think it's a zone problem. I just think it's a usage issue. Guys are just waiting for those deep counts, forcing him inside the zone, then taking their licks. I think that just is what it is with this pitcher, is that they tried to change him into something that I don't think that he really is. And there really, I don't think, was a reason to do that, in my opinion, because of how good he was the last time that he pitched. As I said, of course, the game changes. Of course, the organization is going to have a certain philosophy, but this guy was perfectly fine the way he was. And I think they tried to change something they shouldn't have changed.
Well, it's an interesting point because, I mean, like you said, Alex, like a lot has been made with the new change in the philosophy, obviously throwing less fastballs and, throwing more off-speed stuff, but it really has felt like copy and paste for every pitcher. Now it's helped for guys like Edward Cabrera, and actually pitching to contact. And, obviously you saw the last start, Nate mentioned how kind of the four seams was not used as much or eliminated as a whole. But yeah, you don't mess with a former Cy Young Award winner. And that's the thing. It's just a lot of feels like copy and paste for everyone. Everyone's having the sweeper, like Kevin mentioned. So that's the weird part to me. You can have a general change in philosophy if that's what they really want to go with, whether you agree with it or not. But it seems like it's just the same approach with every guy, and obviously we know that just doesn't work.
It'd be interesting to get inside the room where some of these discussions were had entering the season, just because Sandy publicly has been a good soldier. Like, he is not at all. We've seen on other teams, Rafael Devers, for example, in Boston, and other cases where that behind stuff, if there are disagreements about that intention, it can bubble over. In Sandy's case, he has never deflected blame to the coaching staff, where they also have a new director of pitching, Bill Hiesel. It's his first year. Daniel Moscas, who we haven't referenced, he is the pitching coach. It's his first time as a full-time pitching coach, but he has never thrown them under the bus. You would think that if he had a strong conviction about not making changes, that they would have left him alone. So it's a little puzzling in that way, where the bigger trends do point to an issue with the pitching approach. The fact that as a whole, they have allowed the most, I think they've still allowed, maybe now just below the Rockies, the second most runs in the big leagues. They have allowed the most walks in the entire big leagues, Sandy included. But with a lot of these guys leaning so heavily on their non-fastballs has been more difficult to control and led to all these walks that bubble over into big innings when they finally give up a hit. So it's a really murky subject. But overall, this was like a better week for their pitching staff than we'd seen recently with a lot of these guys. It's just that still their start to finish is always like something that goes haywire, whether it's taking out the starter too early and then the relievers blows up, or in the case of this series, a couple instances where the pitcher was doing really well, and then as he gets that third time through the order, something goes haywire, and all of a sudden his final line looks really mediocre, all things considered.
Yeah, Marlins right now have the highest walk per nine in baseball as a pitching staff, and they have the second highest ERA in baseball. So they are a negative 0.1 FOR as a pitching staff this year. So that just tells you how bad it's been, and what should be a strength, and I think will end up being a strength at some point when they get Weathers back, which we'll talk about, and eventually Yuri Perez, and we begin to see Robbie Snelling, Adam Mazur, those guys come up. But man, right now it's just been so stressful and so frustrating, because usually I think we all went into the season thinking, if there's one thing that'll keep this team afloat, it'll be the pitching, not the offense. And so far it's been the offense, and it's frustrating because Sandy is really good. And Edward Cabrera has the stuff. Cal Quantrill's just going to eat innings at this point, and you didn't think it'd be this bad. Looked a lot better recently. And then you thought you were finally going to start getting some of these pieces, and obviously the Weathers injury was a tough blow, but it shouldn't be as bad as it's been. And you thought the bullpen would hold its own, which it hasn't, So it's been rough. It's certainly been rough. Decision making maybe has been a big issue with that. Maybe, and something that we've spoken about in our chat has been just the mound visits have been so random and so just like weird when they do them. Like the Cal Quantrill one's the one I remember the most. Like, why aren't you going up there before he's facing Juan Soto? Like, come on. So that was one of them. And I don't know. Then the bullpen management has certainly been something, like going with Cade Gibson to face Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman. Like, no offense to Cade Gibson, but you go with someone else in that situation. So those are just the ones that obviously stand out, and it's been a bumpy ride. I don't think we expected this team to be good, of course, but when you're somehow overachieving, and as they were, and I think, and honestly, they still are in some cases, like, you expected a little more.